Well, for the first time since June of 2023, California's home prices decreased compared to the previous year, which is highly unusual. I'll discuss that here in today's video. The reason why home prices are down is due to a huge increase in the amount of homes for sale or housing inventory, but also due to housing affordability constraints for people looking to buy houses here in California. I'll go over all the details in today's video regarding sales, prices, inventory, and much, much more. This is my monthly video I make for you guys each and every month regarding the California housing market. If you guys are new here, I invite you to subscribe. And of course, if you guys are looking to buy a house in the greater Sacramento area or the San Francisco Bay Area, my team and I would love to help. I'll provide my contact info in the video description below. With that said, I have so much to share in today's video. Thank you for joining me, and let's begin. Some very big changes here occurring in the California housing market, which I'm going to go over in today's video. So this is covering only existing single family houses. I'm excluding condos. This is from the California Association of Realtors. They mainly go over single family houses and excluding brand new home construction. And by the way, if you guys want more information about new home construction in the Sacramento region, I have a second YouTube channel, check out that, which is called Sacramento Home Goals. Okay, so with that said, I might have so much to share here. Let's talk about sales. So sales, this is something important to note here. Sales decreased by 4% compared to May of 2024, despite a big increase of housing inventory. Inventory is up by more than 40%, but despite more options for home buyers, sales overall still decreased for the state as a whole. Also, the median sold price is still over $900,000. We're still a little bit or shy of the all-time record high that was set back in April, but comparing to 1 year ago, we're down by 0.9%. Again, highly unusual to see prices down year over year. I'll share info regarding that here in a little bit. The unsold inventory index is at 3.8 months, up a staggering 46.2% year over year. Again, I'll have more details to share how this number compares to previous years and also prices as well. Days in the market is 21 days, so it takes approximately 3 weeks to sell a home, overall fairly quickly, but that is an increase of 31% year over year. All right, let's talk about sales, and then we're gonna go over home prices as well. So sales had the largest yearly decrease in 17 months in California. So again, like I mentioned, down 4% year over year. Here's what really caught my attention though. We're in the heart of the spring home buying season, right? May in Sacramento, for example, we tend to have the biggest increase of new supply in the market, and it's a very competitive market in general in May. However, for the state as a whole, sales decreased by 5% compared to April. Normally sales increase in May, not decrease. Pretty unusual trends. Here's something also that really caught my attention as well. I have been making this video for years now, probably ever since 2020 probably. Especially in 21 and 22, we saw a huge increase in sales at the upper range of the market. That's sales for over $1 million, especially over $2 million. But right now, this, by the way, is a typo. This is actually May 2025. In any case, normally we were seeing like a sharp increase of more expensive houses increasing, the sales increasing year over year. But this month in May, sales fell in all price tiers, which is unusual. Another way to share this is this right here. So the dark red line is sales for over $2 million in California, going back to December of 2018. Back then, I was making videos regarding the huge increase of luxury home sales. Over $2 million, increased a staggering, let's just say almost 350% compared to May of 2020. So a huge increase of more expensive houses that sold in 21 compared to 2020. Now all price tiers are down year over year. So in other words, we're not seeing this huge increase of more expensive properties selling, which was kind of changing the overall median sale price. The mix in sales was impacting California's overall prices as a whole. And now we're not seeing that because we're seeing a sharp pullback in the luxury market. Here's yet another way to look at this. Look at late 24 and 25. The dark blue lines is sales for over $2 million. We saw a big increase in, let's just call it late 24, early 25, but that number has been decelerating, and now all price tiers right here are down year over year. So in other words, this pullback in sales is not just impacting the luxury market or more affordable houses. Is across the board. Here's what we're also seeing as well. Pending home sales, this is a measure of home buyers getting their offers accepted. So inventory is the amount of houses actively for sale. And when a seller accepts an offer from a home buyer, that becomes a pending home sale. So those decrease for the 6th consecutive month. It's now down by 0.3% year over year. So pending sales are more or less flat year over year, which again is important to note given the fact that inventory is up big time. So a huge increase in supply is not causing a rise of sales in California. Now, speaking of prices, I have a lot to share regarding this, of course. It says California's median home price had its first yearly decline in 23 months. Again, I have my own data regarding this, or I should say my own analysis of their data. The last time this happened in which prices fell year over year was back in June of 2023. So May this year compared to May last year, they're down by 0.9%. But wait, there's more. So here is what I pulled from the California Association of Realtors website, probably like 3 years ago now. I just added all these other metrics here to kind of explain what's actually happening right now in the California market. And of course, if you guys are getting any value, then please hit the like button. This video by far takes me the longest to make because there's a whole bunch of analysis involved in it. I love doing it anyways, but it is pretty time consuming. So let's look back at April of 25. That was an all-time record high in which California's median sold price was at $910,000. The previous all-time record high was back in May last year at $908,000. But look at this. I said here that prices reach a new record high, but the gain of only 0.7% compared to 12 months prior to that was the smallest increase since July of 2023. The year-over-year gains are getting smaller from a higher interest rate environment, but also due to the fact that we have housing affordability constraints as well. I said here more later, if inventory keeps rising while maintaining a low level of sales, which is exactly what we're seeing right now, we could enter negative territory once again very soon. And here we are. The following month, prices decreased by 0.9%. And again, the last time this happened was back in June of 2023. It is very unusual to see prices down year over year. In fact, just over the last 13 years, 159 months to be exact, they were only down compared to the previous year for only 9 months. So there was only 9 months out of the past 159 months in which prices fell compared to the previous year. So this is very unusual to see prices down right now. Also, this 0.9% decrease is also much lower than the average gain of 9.3% since 2010. So based on my nerdy formula there, since May of 2010, the average is a gain of 9.3%. So this month is a decrease of 0.9%, obviously much, much worse. Also looking at prices at $900,000 this May, obviously this is down slightly from the previous month when we had all-time record highs of $910,000. Also, it's worth noting here that normally prices peak in late spring, early summer, and not in April. So it appears that prices have already peaked. They peaked early this year, back in April, and now we're coming down due to housing affordability constraints and also due to a sharp increase of housing supply as well. All right, let's have a look at prices compared to 1 month ago. So now we're down by 1.1% compared to April, which is highly unusual. Prices tend to increase from April to May. So for example, the average April to May change going all the way back until 2010 is an increase of 1.7%. This year, it decreased by 1.1%. My take on this is that this is not a big surprise, given the fact that April was an all-time record high, and I did not expect to see a huge increase in prices or for prices to increase at all, given the fact that we already had record prices back in April, and also because sales are flat and inventory has been increasing. So this is not a big surprise to see that prices decreased compared to April, even though it's unusual to see that this time of year. So therefore, a rise of inventory and a decrease in sales is indicative of a softening housing market. Now, having said that, looking at prices compared to 6 years ago before the pandemic, they're still up by 47%. So if you're a homeowner and you haven't taken all the equity out of your house in order to get a HELOC, for example, if you're a homeowner who has owned a home for about 6 or 5 to 6 plus years in California, in general, you probably have a lot of equity in your houses. In contrast, prices are fairly flat compared to 1 year ago, but up greatly compared to 2 years ago. Back in May of 23, we were only at 835,000. Now we're at 900,000. This kind of goes all back to my opinion regarding you should not buy a house with the plans on selling it in the near term. If you're going to buy a house in California or anywhere across the United States that have long-term time horizons in which you do not plan to sell the home for 7 to 10 plus years, because you can ride out the ebbs and flows of the housing market. Other people who reach out to me say, hey, I want to buy a house. And I ask them, okay, well, when do you want to sell it? I want to sell it in 1 to 2 years. I just tell them to rent. It doesn't make any sense to buy if you have short-term time horizons, because who knows what the market's going to be like in 1 to 2 years, right? All right, let's get back to this slideshow from the California Association of Realtors. They do a fantastic job, by the way, regarding all this details they share regarding the market, the best I've seen nationwide. Anyways, looking at May this year, the sale price to list price ratio was 100%. This still means that out of all the houses that did sell, they sold for the seller's final list price on average. This is obviously way lower compared to the spring home buying season of 21 and 22. Back then, homes were selling about 4% over asking. Now they're selling for the asking price on average, and that's been fairly stagnant ever since really the early parts of 2023. All right, let's change gears slightly here and talk about inventory. This is one of the main contributing factors due to this softening housing market we're seeing here in California. So inventory is at 3.8 months, the month supply at 3.8 months. This is indicative of our market moving towards a buyer's market. I would still say this is a seller's market overall, but definitely moving in the direction of buyers having an advantage over home sellers. This is a significant rise compared to what we saw last year when the month supply was at 2.6 months. How is this all compared to years past though, right? 3.8 months, how this compares to, especially before the pandemic. So the month supply is an indication of how much leverage buyers or sellers have against the other, right? So in general, a month supply less than 4 months is indicative of sellers having a clear advantage over home buyers, right? That's indicative of prices increasing. In contrast, buyers in general have the upper hand when the month supply rises to 5 to over 6 months. So I'd call this a weak seller's market that is moving in the direction of a buyer's market. So right now the month supply is at 3.8 months. Looking at pre-COVID levels back in May of 19, it was at 3.2 months. It's also very important to share the same month in years past because the month supply tends to fluctuate. It tends to kind of peak around the winter months. And of course, it's low during the spring home buying season. So looking at that, the average May since May of 2010 is at 3.3 months. So at 3.8 months, this is a little bit higher compared to the long run average. So therefore, the month supply in California has now surpassed pre-COVID levels. On top of that, this is something that I was researching as well. This is pretty crazy. 3.8 months is more or less in line with what we should see looking at pre-COVID, because it should be around 3.3 months. Now we're at 3.8. So slightly higher compared to the average, but at 3.8 months, that's the highest for the month of April going all the way back until May of 2011, excluding the onset of COVID. So back in May of 2020, it was around 4 months, but at 3.8 months, the highest since approximately May of 2011. Again, the more normal figure is in the mid 3-month range. So we're not too much higher than that, but this is definitely noteworthy given that the month supply hit the highest levels in over 10 years. Also, I added this as well. The all-time record low was back in December of 21, 1.2 months. Obviously, that was a very unhealthy market for buyers. And of course, back in January of 2008, the month supply, 16.6 months. Absolutely crazy. Therefore, the month supply was over 4 times higher during the Great Recession than it is right now. So I would say, if you guys expect to see a housing market crash like 2008, then where's it going to come from, right? 16.6 months was absolutely insane. I believe this figure only includes houses listed on the MLS, excluding foreclosures. And of course, back in 08, we had a ton of foreclosures as well. All right, going back to the slideshow, I hope you guys are getting some value out of today's video. I love sharing my own analysis of what's happening right now. Anyways, looking at inventory levels, this is the total amount of houses actually actively for sale as the end of May this year. So active listings or housing inventory, housing supply increased to the highest level in over 5 years. As you guys can see right here, the highest level since late 2019. So inventory, according to the California Association of Realtors, has now surpassed pre-pandemic levels. So by the end of May this year, we had around 50,000 single-family houses for sale in California. Looking at the all-time record lows, for example, obviously this is not comparing apples to apples, but just pretty crazy to see this. Back in late 21, early 22, there was only around 15,000 homes for sale. Now there's about 50,000. What a difference a few years makes. However, having said that, at around 50,000 right now, compared to May 18 and May of 2019, that is still slightly lower compared to those levels. Here's something pretty eye-opening as well. Inventory has increased by more than 40% for quite some time now. So in May, compared to May last year, it's up by 48%. So there's approximately 48% more houses for sale statewide from 12 months ago, which is obviously really good news for home buyers. We want to see more inventory, which would cause the price growth to soften, and of course, giving you a lot more options. If I look in the Sacramento region and look at Redfin or whatever, and I can see green, green, green all over the place. There's a lot of houses for sale. This is so much different compared to late 21, early 22, where there was a lack of homes for sale. A home got listed for sale. It sold less than 1 week, getting multiple offers. Now on average in Sacramento, home sellers are getting about 1 to 2 offers on average, not 6 that we saw about 3 years ago. Here's something that also caught my attention as well that you guys should definitely be aware of as well. This lock-in effect in which a lot of homeowners who have rates less than 3, less than 4%, that lock-in effect is actually easing more. So new listings grew by double digits, over 10%, now for every single month so far this year. So in May compared to 12 months ago, it rose by nearly 23%. So right now we're seeing a rise of housing supply due to 2 main factors: sales decreasing and new listings rising by over 10% every single month so far this year. This is all contributing to the rise of housing supply. Having said that, this lock-in effect is still in effect, but it is easing though, because looking at May of 18 and May of 2019, there was actually more new listings then than we saw this May. So therefore, despite this rise from the past several years, we're still down compared to the same time frame looking at pre-pandemic levels. With that said, if you guys are looking to buy or sell a home in the greater Sacramento area, then please check out my other YouTube channel. I also go over Sacramento housing market updates. That YouTube channel is called Sacramento Home Goals. I'll also provide a link in the video description below for that as well. If you guys got any value out of today's video, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Of course, I appreciate you so much for watching today's video, especially if you're still watching today's video. I appreciate you guys so much. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.